Anyone who's been on this channel for a little while knows that I love to cover cases that have lost all hope. Cases that are so bizarre, or are so lacking in evidence, that they may never get an answer. Presumably you know a lot of these popular cases from watching BuzzFeed Unsolved, or Unsolved Mysteries itself. But how many of these cold cases did you actually know are already solved? Hey guys, it's Freaky Informer, and today we're going to be talking about some popular cold cases that you may not know are solved. One or two of these cases have been massively featured on many true crime and oddity outlets, but I'm hoping some of these are fresh news to you. Now, let's get into it. I'm starting this series off with a case that has been in the spotlight recently, after much continuous media attention since the odd happenings in 2013. Eliza Lam was a young Canadian student who travelled to America and was staying in Los Angeles at the time of her disappearance. She was staying in the notable Cecil Hotel, a residence which already has a notably dark past. The hotel, now known as Stay on Main, has an unusually tragic past, being associated with such popular cases as the murder of the Black Dahlia, and being the hunting ground of serial killers such as Jack Hunter Fager and Richard Ramirez, also known as the Night Stalker. Eliza Lam's case spread throughout the internet like wildfire due to the notorious video of her acting strangely in an elevator. While it was clear that Lam was suffering from symptoms of her bipolar disorder and depression, her eventually discovered death was miscommunicated as murder. The young woman was later found in one of the hotel's water tanks, on the roof, and they found her because guests were complaining about the hotel's water pressure and the rancidity of the water. In a statement with the press, an officer in charge of public relations in the case falsely reported that the lid of the tank was closed. In actual fact, the lid of the tank was not connected, as the LAPD had told news outlets. Miss Lam's death was actually a tragic accidental drowning. It was also associated with negligence in terms of public safety. She was suffering from a mental break because she stopped taking her medications, and her state of disorientation, she climbed into the water tank and drowned. Her case was formally closed, and Miss Lam put to rest. The next actually solved case gained notoriety on Unsolved Mysteries in the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The 2001 Anthrax attacks happened exactly a week after the events of that tragic day in September. Postal workers in the United States were falling ill under mysterious circumstances. Doctors were soon shocked and disgusted to discover that these mysterious illnesses were actually caused by exposure to military-grade anthrax. The targets of these attacks were United States senators and media figureheads. Letters sent to the New York Post and NBC News threw investigators off. The letters read, "Death to America, death to Israel. Allah is great." However, Islamic extremists such as Al-Qaeda were not behind the attacks. In fact, the actual culprit behind was an active part of the investigation. This would not come to light until 2008, long after evidence of these crimes was permanently destroyed. Bruce Edward Ivins worked for 18 years at the United States Army Medical Research Institute of Infectious Diseases as a senior biodefense researcher. After discovering that the FBI would likely be filing criminal charges against him in connection with the anthrax attacks, Ivins overdosed on Tylenol and subsequently died. DNA evidence in his lab linked him to the crime. The FBI officially closed the case in 2010, and the crimes were attributed to Ivins. The body of the Dana Point Jane Doe was discovered by joggers on the morning of September 20th, 1987. The woman's resting place at the base of a cliff led investigators to critically examine whether or not the unidentified body was a victim of foul play or not. The Jane Doe had no form of identification on or near her body, and the only evidence seemed to be a half-consumed can of Coca-Cola, a purse containing small change, a packet of cigarettes, matches, and 2 maps of Southern California. Written on the back of one of these maps was a phone number for a local taxi company. After a line of questioning by authorities, a driver for the company revealed that he had taxied a woman fitting the description of the body between 3 and 4 a.m. on the day the body was discovered. She requested to either go to Laguna Beach or as far as the $18 in her purse would allow her to go. The Dana Point Jane Doe's mysterious death would not be solved until 28 years later in 2015. Childhood friends of one Holly Glynn came forward to identify the body using the facial reconstruction drawing provided by the police. The case was closed and Holly Glynn's untimely death was ruled as a suicide. The treasure of Forrest Fenn is notorious in the world of treasure hunters and mystery lovers alike. News of the treasure in Santa Fe, New Mexico was spread worldwide after Forrest Fenn, a treasure hunter and art dealer himself, published a poem in his book Thrill of the Chase in 2010. Fenn claimed that the following poem would lead hunters to his treasure worth $2 million. As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasures bold, I can keep my secret where, and hint of riches new and old. Begin it where warm waters hold, and take it in the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. Put in below the home of Brown. From there it's no place for the meek. The end is ever drawing nigh. There'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and water high. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease. But tarry scant with marvel gaze, just take the chest and go in peace. So why is it that I must go and leave my trove for all to seek? The answers I already know, I've done it tired, and now I'm weak. So hear me all and listen good, your effort will be worth the cold. If you were brave and in the wood, I give you the title to the gold. Many critics and newspapers alike declared Fenn a fraud, and 5 individuals died in an attempt to find the treasure. The treasure hunter died in September of 2020, almost taking with him the secret of the treasure's location. However, 3 months prior, in June of 2020, it was announced that Fenn's treasure had been discovered. A 32-year-old medical student named Jack Stoof was the one to find the treasure. Stoof has said that if he can't donate the treasure to somewhere its searchers can view it, he will attempt to sell it off to pay off his medical school debts. He and Fenn decided to keep the actual location of the treasure a secret, in Fenn's memory. Finally, a solved mystery of extraterrestrial proportions. On the 20th of August 1975, NASA launched the Viking 1 craft with the goal of searching for life on Mars. The spacecraft's pods took thousands of photos on the red planet's surface, including images of dried up rivers, dead volcanoes, and ice caps. One formation, however, stood out from the rest. One of the Viking craft's pods picked up an image of what appeared to be a head, creepily looking as though it was drowning in the desert of Mars' surface. What's more, it looks strikingly like earthly statues of Egyptian pharaohs. There was much speculation by NASA, and by 1989 another craft had taken pictures of the planet once again. NASA scientists could tell from this image of the head formation that it was actually a mesa, essentially a hill on the planet's surface. Previous imagery included clouds' shadows, which made the mesa appear more like a face, especially at the angle in which the photo was taken. Of course, this can be further explained by human psychology and face pareidolia, the phenomenon of seeing faces in everyday objects. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode, guys. I had lots of fun researching this one, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed making it. Also, check out the petition and fundraiser in the description below if you're in a position to make a difference. And remember, even the creepiest of events can have an easy explanation. Stay freaky, stay informed. It may save your life.